Hello and welcome back to Unreal Engine 5 Blueprint Mastery, Door Systems and Interactive Portals. Previously, we talked a little bit about the relative rotations and we finished with our timeline and set relative rotation by using a lerp on a float because the x and y will not change, only the z, the y-axis, will lerp from 0 to -90 to set relative rotation, and it will always be at that rotation. So we have the arrow to tell us where the front is and where the door will open towards to. If we wanted to open it this way, the only thing we would need to do would be to change this -90 to 90, and it would open towards 90 degrees. The next thing we did was to enable input with the player controller to this blueprint and disable it when we begin and end overlap, when our player begins and end overlaps, using the component tag P. Then we demonstrated an input node, the E button, that when we press it while we are in the collision tube, it works and it makes our door open. Let's continue with making the door be able to open and close. In some lessons ago, we spoke a little bit about enumerations, that there are pre-set lists that they cannot change during runtime. Let's go create one of these, because the one that we showed is already existing from the engine, from Unreal, and it's about direction. We could use this, but let's make it a little bit more advanced for some other users also. We're gonna right click and we're gonna go to Blueprint, and from Blueprint we're gonna choose Enumeration. Now we're gonna call this E door state, and I'm gonna open it. Over here we have the button that adds enumerators. As we said, it's basically a list, and as you can notice, it names them different because it cannot have twice the same enumerator. Like if I turn this to 0, it will pop an error. Enumerator 0, new enumerator 0 is already in use. Let's have open, close, opening, actually 1p, and closing. Now I'm gonna save and I'm gonna close this. Now I have this list over here, but how do I bring in the blueprint? I can't just drag and drop it. It cannot create a node from this type of asset. So to do this, I'm gonna go to our variables tab and I'm gonna press the plus button over here to create a new variable and go to variable type over here and search for E door state. I wish I was typing door, and here it is in the category enum enumerations. It's our enumeration E door state. So I'm gonna click on this and I'm gonna name the variable also door state. The way I did it was by clicking on here, or you can always press F2 and it will go to rename. Let's bring this over here and let's explore a new node. This node is the switch node. As we said previously, the switch node needs to be connected to a specific enumeration, the switch on enumeration basically, because there are switches based on integers, for example, based on many things. If we type switch on, you can see everything with an E is an enumeration, a lot of Niagara things, but there is plenty of variables to switch on. Most usable one is actually the switch on string, so we can customize our cases. Like case could be open, like we could have it like with strings, and we could have half open, and then it would depend on what is incoming from a string. Again, a string is a variable type which can take, well, basically text, any text. That can be a number, that can be a letter, that can be a symbol, anything that is a text. There is also a text variable, but it is designed for a different kind of use, more for localizing content. It is optimized for displaying different types of text if they need translation and formatting for different languages. But for us right now, this is just an example because we're going to use an enumeration. So when I'm pressing E, I want this to do something different based on the state of the door. Now we need to set a default value for this state. The first value that we have in our enumeration is open, which we do not want. We want it to be close. So I'm going to set it to close and compile again. So the default state when E is pressed is close. So when the door is closed, we're going to play from start. When the door is open, we're going to reverse from end. While we are playing, we could actually change the state over here and say that when we could connect it over here and then over here, and then I'm gonna duplicate this and connect it over here and over here, and this would be closing and this would be opening. So when we are pressing E, if we are on open state, we are closing the door and we are reversing the animation. If we are on close, we are opening the door and playing the animation correctly. But I want to demonstrate the do once node. So, as we said, this update from the timeline runs constantly. This means that this runs every frame, basically. Every frame, it runs whatever comes out this execution end. If I do once over here, it means that it will do this execution, and once it reaches this point, it will just stop here after it has done it once. To do it again, we would need to reset. And if I have click this start close button over here, this means that it would need to reset before it does it once, whatever we have out here on complete. So this means that if, for example, we want to change, let me cut this, open goes to reverse from end, and close goes to play from start. So it's opening and it's closing. Yeah, now I'm gonna paste this here. If I wanted to change this while the timeline runs, I would need to do it once, and I would need to reset it when the timeline has finished. So I'm gonna put a reroute node here. I'm gonna put a reroute node also here, and I'm gonna connect it here. Now, I can use this enumeration instead of this one to just determine where the door is closing or opening. So I'm gonna switch on E timeline, and if it's forward, it means we are opening the door. If it's backwards, then it means we are closing the door. And this would run once, and when the timeline has finished, it will reset, so it's free to do it again next time. Let's go test this. Let's go play. We are approaching the door, we are moving here, press E to open, press E to close, and nothing is happening. And the reason is pretty simple, because in the end, we didn't specify if we done opening or closing. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do a sequence node. Now, what is a sequence node? It sounds like it's gonna do some things in an order, which it will, but it doesn't mean that it will wait for one line to finish and then move to the next. It will run all the pins in an order, but they will fire almost simultaneously. Like if I had a print string here that says hello, and I had a print string over here also that says, actually let's number it 1, 2. Let's move this a little bit higher. I'm gonna put a delay here, and I'm gonna put another string over here. Let's say this is 3, and this would be 4. So what we are supposed to see here would be 1, 2, 3, 4. But what will happen is that we will see 1, 2, 4, 3, because the 3 has a small delay here. Let's make this 1 second. Actually, point 2 was pretty fine. I don't have an exact number, but imagine if a frame takes like 16 milliseconds to render, and it does the whole calculations of the game. Imagine how fast every node runs. So 0.2 is plenty of time. Let's go test it. Let's go press play. And I need to go to the door to test it. You see, 1, 2, 4, 3. You can see it again in the log. 1, 2, 4, 3. So this tells us that this doesn't wait for an execution to finish to run the next. Then 1, then 2, then 3. I'm gonna delete all this because it's not really needed. And I'm gonna remove some execution pins. We just need 2. And let's connect this one to the reset. And let's duplicate this functionality over here. Let's also connect the direction to the switch, and change forward is gonna be open, and backwards it's gonna be close. So now we should be able to see the door open and close. Yep. There is something missing though. A player should be informed that they can open and close the door. And to be honest, we are very close to the door to start opening. Like the collision is very small. So when I'm here, this happens. So I think these two things are going in the next lesson. And I'm gonna see you then. Goodbye.